There is an exercise that I've always wanted to try with a client in a one-on-one session, but I haven't because I think it would just be too brutal for most guys to handle in a regular face-to-face session. So let me explain here, okay? Guys typically come to me saying that they've been trying really hard for years to seriously level up in life. And for a small percentage of these guys, this is totally true. They've been putting in legit effort to succeed, but we're just lacking the proper tools that they needed, okay? But really, for the vast majority of guys, they just tell themselves and others that they're seriously trying when in reality, they're not. Okay. And the brutal exercise that I alluded to here, it would expose this truth very quickly, very simply, and it would put them in an incredible position to do something about it. But the reason I don't do this exercise is because I think, for a lot of guys, it's really hard to see this stuff written down. Very hard to confront the true reality of how they are behaving. And my worry is that if I do it, then they're just going to be so bummed out and feel so embarrassed that they're not going to be able to continue to have a productive session with me. Okay. But since we've got a wall of anonymity between us and you don't need to admit your results to anyone but yourself, it'll take a bit of the sting out of things if your results are a little bit hard to swallow. So with that being said, let's try this exercise here. Okay. And there's really only one step to this exercise. All right. And I want you to do it. And then I'm going to offer you 3 critical points of context to adjust and understand the answer that you came up with. Okay. Sound good? Here is the exercise that will tell you how hard you are actually trying to level up in life. I want you to write down how much time do you typically spend per week working on your number one goal? Pretty simple. Okay. How much time do you typically spend per week working on your number one goal? Okay. Pretty simple. So I just want you to write down, what you got there, okay? Just a rough estimate in hours and minutes will be fine. It doesn't need to be a perfect measurement, just like your ballpark figure. And what I want you to do is just pause your video right now and do this now, okay? So, got your number? Great. Let's talk about it, okay? And I would love it if you could post what you came up with in the comments below, but you might want to watch the rest of the video first. So, what we're going to do now is give you some helpful information to analyze this question and your answer. First point is if you don't immediately know what your number one goal is, then you automatically fail this trying test. How could you possibly focus, let alone make progress without your goal clarified? Because the reality is if you don't know what you're aiming for, then there's no chance that you can really be working that hard for it, right? Like your number one goal, it's got to sit at the top of your pyramid with everything else underneath it. Okay. And this can be a difficult thing to come up with, but you need to have this focus. Okay. And then additionally, okay, you can't have 2 or 3 or 100 top goals, because if you do, well, then you also fail, because something has to come first for you to effectively prioritize the usage of your discretionary time. Now you might say, but Mark, I don't know what my number one goal is. Okay, well, common situation, nothing wrong with that. But if you don't know what your current number one goal is, then finding that goal needs to be your number one goal. And by finding, I'm not talking about the aimless hemming and hawing in the background of your mind that most guys do when they're figuring something out, okay? I'm talking about writing down big lists of options, doing research, talking to people who could offer you direction, planning out experiments to gain experience, and all that kind of stuff, okay? You can't just wait around for clarity to hit you like a lightning bolt. You have to essentially create your own storm of intentional activity, and usually only then will clarity come to you. So if you don't have a top goal, then creating the storm of activity that's focused toward getting clarity should be your top goal. And this brings us to our second point, okay? Your effort doesn't really count as trying if you're just working around your goal, okay? So what do I mean by that? So a lot of guys, their amount of actual work toward their goal is very small, just like, a little slice of it. But then they've got a bunch of other work where they're maintaining things and they're generally kind of messing around. So if your goal is a promotion, just doing your regular day job doesn't count as trying toward the promotion. That would simply be maintaining your current position. Okay. Trying would be doing the promotion specific things like putting out feelers for better offers, going the extra mile to make your work stand out, negotiating with your boss, networking, schmoozing with the leadership, etc. Okay. Likewise, if you're a business owner and you typically do $5,000 per month, but you want to do $10,000 a month, well, then trying toward that goal is really about implementing whatever scaling strategy you have is, instead of just doing what's keeping you at 5K, okay? If your goal is to create a music album, reading books about music, practicing scales, and fruitlessly fiddling with music software is not trying. Trying would be actually engaging in the creative trial and error process that would produce completed music. And it can be a little tricky sometimes to tell whether we're just kind of screwing around or if we are doing real work toward our goal. So I want to offer you a thought experiment to help you distinguish between the two. Okay, so imagine this. Imagine that a crazed billionaire kidnaps your family. And they say that they're going to kill your family unless you achieve your number one goal as quickly as possible without compromising your morals or sacrificing acceptable levels of quality. Okay, so basically it's like, all right, you want to save your family? Well, you got to reach this goal and you got to be moral, you got to be effective, and you got to be fast. Otherwise, your family dies, right? And if you do this, not only will he release your family, he'll also give you an extra $10 million. Like I said, he's a crazy billionaire, okay? But if you start thinking about the pursuit of your goal in this context, it should really strip away what is actually working towards your goal and what's just screwing around. Those things that you wouldn't do under these circumstances that you're currently doing, well, I mean, those are things that might be just you fooling yourself. So with that being clear, would you need to whittle down that initial number that you wrote for your time spent per week on your number one goal? If so, adjust your answer accordingly. And now this brings us to our final point. If you spend more time in escapism rather than working towards your number one goal, well, I'm sorry to say it, you are not really trying, okay? So you got to think about this. How much time do you spend surfing the net, playing video games, watching porn, listening to podcasts, and puttering around with unimportant stuff per day? How many hours are you sinking into that? And if that number is greater than the amount of time that you're working towards your number one goal, well, then I'm sorry. It's like, how can we really say you're seriously trying? I mean, you can't, right? Because you're kind of just goofing off, really. And to be clear, when I say escapism, I'm not referring to a legitimate downtime and rest that recharges and fulfills you, okay? I believe that effective rest and recreation is essential for doing your best work. In many ways, it's a type of productivity in and of itself. It makes you enjoy life, it makes you get hungry to get back to work, and it gives you the energy to get back to work. Escapism, however, is when you're doing things that you don't really want to be doing, you don't really value, and they don't really serve you. All they really do is offer you an ability to numb out. And typically, they leave you in a much worse position than, if you had done something a little bit more, healthy with your time. You see, most guys today, they spend way more time going down YouTube rabbit holes than they do chasing down their dreams. And their results reflect this lack of sincerity. And with big goals, I really believe that sincerity is everything. It's like, why would God give you what you want most if you aren't even acting like that's what you want most, right? And I just think the truth is that he wouldn't, he wouldn't give you that unless you're really showing yourself that I do value this. This is what I want in my life, okay? And whether you believe in God or just the universe or you just simple cause and effect, I mean, you gotta be focusing on what you want. Now, if this has been a rather sobering exercise for you, okay, don't worry, okay? You're not alone. I would have failed this test myself a million times over in different points in my life, okay? There are tons of times where I was lying to myself. I felt like I was putting in all this effort and, sincerely, I was suffering. I was feeling lots of stress, but I wasn't really working on what was most important. I'm no stranger to escapism. That's why I got into this line of work, because I know how hard it is to really focus on what matters. But acknowledging the truth of where you stand is the first step to making things right. So if you want to stop kidding yourself and put real effort toward what you want most in life, then I've got something that I think will really help you. And what it is a brand new free training designed to help you get focused on your real goals and eliminate the bad habits of escapism that are holding you back. Okay, this training will show you how to utilize a set of key pattern interrupts that will let you break out of the dysfunctional autopilot that's holding you back so that you can slay the dopamine dragon, that little thing in your head that's constantly chasing low value escapism, and it'll help you finally find your focus, find your motivation, and find your clarity to really start leveling up. Okay. And to get this, all you got to do is you just need to click the link in the description here or in my bio. The training's called End Your Escapism, and I guarantee that you will love it. All right, guys, I hope you found this video useful. And if you did, please like, please follow, drop a comment to let me know what you think, and I'll see you all on the front line. Ooh, yeah.